Candice Johnson is the owner of But I'm Not a Critic Though, or BINAC, a platform that cultivates positive music perspectives created and influenced by people of color. The platform features a blog, playlist, artist spotlights, and the annual Glow Up Festival. Candice's goal to promote up-and-coming artists, as well as connecting them to growth opportunities, has proven to be a success. You can find out more at butimnotacritichthough.com.
Thank you, Candice, for joining me today to talk about But I'm Not a Critic Though. I love that. Tell me a little bit more about your platform and what you got, how did it start, and what you do right now with it.
Cool. But I'm Not a Critic Though. I call it, so just to make an acronym and make it shorter, either BINACT or some people say BINACT. I honestly do not care. I think I probably say BINACT because I'm country, I'm Southerner. BINACT is based in South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina. And we are a music platform that promotes positive and unique perspectives to an evolving music society. So in layman's terms, I like to say that I am the anti-critic. Of course, music journalism specifically gets very, very, there are a lot of people kind of like on their high horses who get to say, I like this and I don't like this. And these are the reasons why and why not. And which is good. I think any critique is also like building the community in a way to just make people aware and not necessarily to tear people down. But when I saw that, I was just more concerned about talking about the things that I liked and then not necessarily focusing on the things that I did not like. So that's kind of how BINACT was born. I'm not a person that has like a super musical background. So I like to call myself an aficionada. I'm not like sitting here saying that, I have a music degree and I have studied far and wide of music and I know everything. It's more, and I guess that's why I try to like keep it a little like tongue in cheek and, not necessarily playful, but just a little more lighthearted than saying that I am a hard hitting, news, coverage type platform. But basically, I just like to keep it positive here. So anything that you see on the platform is highlighting, I highlight mainstream artists kind of to get people into the platform, and then bringing a huge light on independent artists that are doing good work, they're hustling, and they're making good music. So I think I summed that up a little bit, but that's what BINACT is all about and what we're trying to push. After this second quarter, we're going to change our mission just a little, like ever so slightly, but we're changing it to still say promoting positive, unique music perspectives in an evolving society. And then I will add in for people of color and the music they make. So not saying that non-POC cannot submit, but it is about highlighting, I guess, so a lot of the genres that we create, like rock, pop, jazz, all the things that people of color have had a hand in. I really want to focus on that. So I really want to make that a focus moving forward, just to make sure that we're getting all of the coverage, because right now BINACT is predominantly hip hop and R&B, which is cool. I love that. But I really would like to focus more on I love all types of music. So having all genres come in, and even maybe bachata or, just different types of genres coming into the blog is what I want to hear more about. And so I want to change that in my mission to hopefully get more of that inclusivity in there.
What was was there like a one pivotal moment or one thing that said, this is something I want to start? Or was it like a series of events that led you to where you are?
I listened, I got really into music when I got to college, because that's when I became more, when I started exploring myself more, because I grew up Southern Christian household. I grew up an only child. I have two older stepbrothers, but in my house, I grew up by myself. And so I was pretty sheltered for a lot. And after high school, I went to college and I just started exploring more. It seemed like the world it was just a whole different world to me outside of being at home. And I got into music more, and I would talk to my friend who is now actually my graphic designer. And we would just talk about music at our job. We worked at this bookstore and we would talk all the time. And it wasn't really anything like, it was just conversations, like just talking about different artists and stuff like that. And I was in the process and am still in the process of writing a fiction book.
Oh wow.
And I'm still doing that, but really Binac was actually coming to serve as a way to keep my writing regular, to keep my wheels turning for the book. And so I started Binac in 2015, and it was really just a kind of literally a personal like weblog. So like a personal blog that was just kind of like musings here and there of I heard this on SoundCloud, I heard this here, here's what we're doing. And then in
Yeah, yeah.
2016, I kind of shifted it to be more a little more commercial, so it was like palatable for everyone and not just maybe like my followers following the personal stuff. And then I turned it more into a platform. But I said all that to say that it started to keep my writing regular, and it's now become the thing that hones my writing the most. And it's gotten me to the point where I noticed that I could not write the book and then write the blog at the same time. It couldn't happen simultaneously. So I had to like stop doing things for the book to make sure Binact is growing. And now I'm at a point where it's like, okay, it's at least a little bit solid and has its own footing. So I can hopefully go back, finish the book, and then like go back and forth. But it started to be a point to make sure that my writing was fresh, that like, you know, it didn't get stale, or because by trade, my degree is in finance.
Oh wow. um, so how do you connect with new individuals through? Oh,
Oh,
did you get cut off?
am I back? I think I got
You're
stuck,
back.
but I might have. Okay, good. It was really just to keep my writing fresh and working, because I'm accountant. My degree is in finance, so I wasn't taught to write or anything like that. So making sure that I'm kind of keeping up with writing as opposed to like journalists who they write every day, so they hone their pen by simply just being in the field. I wanted to make sure that I was doing the same thing, even though it would be outside of my 9 to 5 job.
You know, I think sometimes it's something you kind of just touched on before about, you know, music journalism as a whole. I feel like a lot of times, and I don't read a lot of it, but I feel like a lot of times it just gets very snarky. And, you know, I feel like it's just, you know, it's very sarcastic and very, like you said, it's very negative. You know, it's all a lot of times about image, not necessarily about sound, and it's disappointing.
There are a lot of platforms that well, a few that I can name off by hand. Like DJ Booth is one of my favorite platforms because their critiques are valid. So it's not necessarily just a ragtag of, oh, this sucks and it's terrible. Like they give you honest criticism. And then like, if it's something that they like, they will literally just gush. And that's how that's what I like love to read, and what I love to see. Like when you love something, gush about it, tell everyone about it. And I always feel like that's such a good thing, because there's so much negativity about things that we don't like or things that we don't want to see. And some people who ask will be like, well, isn't that kind of like hiding some of the things? I'm like, not necessarily. Me being strictly positive isn't hiding anything. It's just that if there are negative feelings that I feel about music, you just won't see me write about it. It doesn't mean that I am just this rainbow and I think all music is perfect. It's just I don't want to promote that. I don't have to promote the negative if I don't want to.
So how do you connect with an artist? Like, give me that process, or many processes that go on.
So, well, I'll even start by listening. Listening to music for me, I do, like I said, I like all genres of music. I don't necessarily have a favorite. I have favorites in waves, but I don't have like a favorite of all time. So when I listen, I just like to hear, just like probably with any other art form, I like to have an attachment to the music. You would want to have an attachment to probably actually like physical art that you hang up on your wall or like painted or whatever. You would want to have an emotional attachment there. Even movies, you see a movie and you want to connect with the characters or anything like that. So for music, it's exactly the same. I would like to have a connection to whatever they're saying. So whether that be sometimes artists are super personal in their music. So if they're maybe talking about a hard time in their life or anything like that, or even like people are kind of rap and make me like feel like dancing or moving. Anything that basically I can connect to on an emotional and possibly spiritual level, that's how I make the connection to the music, which most times automatically connects me to the artist because that's their project that they put out into the world. So I don't have a kind of like a process where I figure out how we're connecting. We just kind of connect. And a lot of times, like even like us right now, it happens over the internet. So it's like probably through DMs, or I like to do even video calls like this where I can see them. But it's a lot of connecting that way where it's an artist that's far away. And if it's somebody that's close, I will travel. Like I did travel. I traveled to Atlanta for Din Music Fest that Nora puts on. And so I traveled to Atlanta to meet some of those artists. And I've traveled to North Carolina, places that are like a few hours away to connect with artists that are there. So sometimes hitting up festivals, shaking hands and doing interviews in that way is really, really helpful too. But really just listening to the music, hearing what they have to say, and then connecting with them that way.
What would you say the biggest challenge is with connecting to new artists or artists in general?
I will tell you the biggest challenge, and it's easy. A lot of them are really Hollywood right now. A lot of them think that I've got 10,000 followers on Instagram and you can't tell me anything. And they are so ready to like be stars that they kind of miss out on this like very initial like grassroots building. And that is hard because I have a thick skin, but there's only so much kind of like personal like things were like, oh well, I won't speak to this blog because it doesn't have enough followers, and there's only so many like small personal attacks that I can take before it's kind of like okay. And even people in my hometown, a lot of them, I have a lot of, oh, I love what you're doing and you're building such a great community and you're doing this, but like they won't show up to things. But then when I travel, I work with another company called Worktastic that's in like the kind of like comic book anime like nerd community.
Oh, okay.
And I travel with them. So like when I'm at home and I'm here in Columbia, South Carolina, it's cool and everybody's like fine and like they won't support things. But when they see that I've traveled somewhere, they're like, oh my gosh, you went to go to the cool place. Like that's so awesome. But I live here, like I get more support from people literally like you're states away and like, places and countries away. I get more support from people that have never got to like be in the same room with me. And then I have people who can't be in the same room with me that are just kind of like, whatever.
Wow. Well, that's a shame. I mean, like you said, a lot of them have like big heads, and it's like we were just talking about people. They'll follow you just to get the follower, and then they'll unfollow you, and it's just like
that is. It's a personal point for me, and not even for the numbers, because if I did this for like numbers and accolades and things, I would have been super pissed off a long time ago, and I would have quit. But it's more like I'm really about like just building or getting to know people. Like I always tell people I'm about using the internet for the good part. I don't like the bad part of the internet. I don't like the weird, very almost terroristic, like, comments and kind of like, I don't like that part of the internet. I like the good part where, people will rally and support and like crowdfunding and like the positive stuff that comes for the internet. So when people like kind of follow to unfollow or do weird stuff like that, I'm just a little turned off because I'm like, use the internet for the good stuff. We can do the bad stuff. Like there's so many people doing the bad stuff on the internet. We can like never do that ever.
And there's so much energy involved, like, adding people and then like taking them off. It's like
I thought I was the only person that felt like maybe it's because I'm sensitive, but like I take it personally because to me it's kind of like if we were to shake hands and you take your hand away from me, it's kind of like I was gonna meet you. No, just kidding. Like that's what it feels like to me. It's weird. You wouldn't do that in real life, so like why would you do that here?
Yeah, or well, I guess the real life would be like the limp handshake. Like I don't really want to touch you, but like I'm just gonna like touch your finger with and give you as that type of handshake. It's like don't bother. Like
I don't want it then. It's fine.
So do you believe then that you could you can communicate remotely and still sustain, very strong relationships across, business or what, your platform, stuff like that?
I definitely feel that way. It takes a little more effort, I will say, of course, on the internet. But what I have noticed is that the remote support, it takes a little bit more effort, but it really doesn't, because people who support you from afar will do the work. I've yet to meet a person like we were talking about Nora. I have met her. I met her at A3C. And then I got to see, like, met her in person at A3C. We've been following each other maybe a year or so. But I met her in person at A3C. And then I met her again. I saw her again for Did Music Fest, but she was helping the event run, so we didn't get to talk as much. But the sustaining the actual relationship hasn't been hard for us because, again, it's, hey, look, she's tweeting about something that I relate to, or hey, look, she's doing something. Let me support that or join in her Twitter conversations. So it feels like it takes energy, but as much as we spend time on social media and stuff like that, it's not more energy than, you know, like maybe going to get coffee or drinks with somebody. It's really just being able to align. And it probably feels that way because a lot of times everybody remotely feels so isolated. So it feels like, hey, I don't have anybody like Nora in my city, but Nora is in, you know, her city. And it's so cool that we've connected. So it feels like it's harder, but it's really not. It's about kind of like going out and meeting the people, because I've even made community on like the East Coast of people. So like there are people here in Columbia or like in Charleston, which is an hour and a half away from me, but it's still in South Carolina. And then in Charlotte, which is an hour and a half away from me, and it's in North Carolina. So like people that are still kind of relatively close. I've made those connections just by like traveling and shaking hands and stuff. But it does require work, and you have to meet the people that are willing to do even the little to the big amount of work.
So how frequently do you travel for But I'm Not a Critic, though?
Lately, it's been at minimum at least once a month. On average. So I might not, like, there might be months where I haven't gone anywhere, but there are also some months where I'm gone 3 weekends out. So on average, it's at least once a month, and it's probably been like that for a year, maybe a year and a half. I like to support people. Like if there's a show or something that I know that I can be at, or a festival, probably especially like a little indie festival or something, if I can make it and I have the bandwidth to be there, I'm trying to be there so I can cover acts. And again, do the networking and shake hands. Sometimes it's not even necessarily about like the coverage, about like taking notes and doing all that stuff, because so you'll go, like if I drive to a festival, I've been to Hopscotch. I went in 2017, and then I did A3C last year, and you go and you drive, and sometimes I'm exhausted. So like I can't even make the mental, you know, put everything together for a full write-up, but I can like take pictures, or I can like recap my experience there. And so sometimes I can't even get a full post or a full post about each individual artist, but I'll try to get video, or I'll try to, you know, again, take pictures and do whatever I need to do to get the coverage there. But it's about meeting the people and shaking hands with the people that you met on Twitter and actually forming those bonds. So sometimes I get not necessarily annoyed, but it's weird to me who, like, when people go to concerts to record them. I think that's strange because you're not actually, I don't know that you're enjoying the concert. You're just kind of like there recording it to watch it back, which I mean, I think is good, but I like to be in the moment. I might get a snippet of a concert, maybe at the beginning or at the end for like the blog or for Instagram. But most of the time I'm enjoying it. And then if I write about it, then I write about it to regurgitate it to the people who want to see and hear. But I think there's something to be said about literally sitting and enjoying the music or the concert that you're at, and then thinking about how to write about it later.
Right. Do you enjoy doing a lot of this traveling?
Yeah, it's fun, and then it gets tiresome. Like it's super, super fun to do it. And then like, so last week I put on a show. I put on the show here in Columbia. Tomorrow I'm going to Durham, North Carolina for the other company I work for. I'll be there for a convention. And then the next week I'll be in Dallas for a collaboration. So it's that company, another company, and then Binac. So it's like a 3-way collaboration. So like that will be like 3 weekends back to back of doing a lot of stuff. And and after that I'm tired. So I'm kind of like, no more traveling for a second. Please. I'm tired.
And now a lot of these you're invited to them, and you know, you don't want to turn anything down either because it's the opportunity. So tell me more about the glow up. I wanted to ask you about that.
It was fun. So this is my 3rd year doing it. It's in celebration of my anniversary. So Binact is 4 years old. But the big anniversary show, this is its 3rd anniversary show. So I have to like kind of explain that because it can get a little confusing. But it is an independent artist concert. And so what it is showcasing the talent in the Southeast, because BINAC right now covers the Southeast. I don't mind covering people outside the Southeast, but I'm trying to just stick into like one general area for right now, because some people will submit from other places. And when I do playlists or I post playlists, I'll put anybody on the playlist. But when I'm actually doing write-ups and coverage, I try to stick to the Southeast. Because I feel like that's actually a market that is kind of underrepresented, unless you count like Atlanta, of course, like speaks for all of the Southeast right now, which isn't necessarily true. It's just they get the most attention. And then, you know, there's New York, Atlanta, and then kind of all the city and DC, and then like all the cities in the middle just kind of like fall in line. But the glow up, I had artists from Columbia, South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, and Atlanta, Georgia. They all came independent, and they had a chance to showcase their talent. And everybody, people, if you wanted to come, you bought tickets, and it's an anniversary show again to highlight and really big up independent artists, and then just have a celebration of being like in the game for 4 years and doing it really, really big. It is a huge endeavor and is also completely funded by myself. So I don't get, and because BINAC is like still fledgling in business, people are a little like leery to do sponsorships and stuff like that. So it's all funded by me. And I think people forget that part, that events don't just spawn. They don't just happen. You know, I don't have some magical money tree source like these. They happen because I pay for them. And they happen because I believe in what I'm doing, but they still cost money. But it's super fun to do, and I can't wait to get all the pictures and stuff back. But it is a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of hard work considering that there are some times where people don't want to support because they're scary, like kind of like that weird like follow unfollow community thing. It's like people are afraid, particularly in my city. They need a cosign. So somebody kind of has to look like they're having fun first for everybody else to have fun or jump in. And it's still kind of like a high school mentality, which I think is a little strange, but that's where, and I won't say all the people in my city, but that's where right now the city is. So the music scene is growing, the independent scene is growing. The young professionals are here, which that's been a change within the last decade, but everybody still kind of has a weird mentality when it comes to supporting local music that isn't like, because we're in the South, so we have a lot of like cover bands. A lot of bands, if you want to see like AC/DC cover band, people are out in droves. Why? I don't know. I just don't understand, but I mean, it's like, you know, if you want to see, or like the same music you've heard for years, Beatles cover band, like if you want to hear that, or of course like bluegrass, folk, country, because we're in the South. So like if you want to hear that, easy, you can sell out quick, no problem. But if I want to hear like maybe a young R&B backed like group, scary. It's like, I don't want to look like that's fun. And even jazz, of course, jazz is here because older crowds like it. But anything for young people, it can come to be a little scary because they think that we're going to tear the place up or, you know, whatever that is. But it's a little bit hard to shift people into doing something new. And so that's another thing that I've kind of undertaken unwillingly. I didn't realize that that's what I'd be getting into, but that's another thing that I've been trying to do, is just get people to expand their sounds. Like there's only so much of one genre of music that you're going to get to before you could just try something else.
I think over time though, I mean, you do have a professional looking website, you know, you got the gram and all that. I think over time people are going to realize that this is a legitimate festival. It's a legitimate platform. It's a legit, you know what I mean? You're not just like kind of like a fly by night festival with like weird, shady, you know, contracts and, you know, I don't know, you know, festivals that happen to be on some island with like, you know,
random things that just pop up and you know, like, and what's so crazy that you say that is doing this and then working, I will plug the other company I work for, Quirktastic. So the thing that I'll be doing next week is QuirkCon. It's the first official convention for the organization. And so it's so funny to like see that stuff happen and like be like, oh my gosh, and understand why people are leery. And I'm literally like pulling money out of my pockets. I paid one of my artists out of my paycheck. I got paid and then I was like, here you go. Like before I paid my bills, I paid an artist. Like, and I mean, I knew luckily what his rate was. And so I paid it and then paid my bills. But I paid an artist before I paid my bills last Friday.
Wow.
So like, there are people who are getting money that legitimately rains from the sky, like to do things that don't have, it baffles me how certain people can have so much access to one thing. And if I had a fraction of what, I don't remember the guy's name, but whatever his name is, if I had a fraction.
That guy.
If I had a fraction.
He was from Jersey too, of course, but.
Really?
Yeah, he's actually
I thought he was from New York
for far from where I live.
Oh God!
I don't know. But he's in jail, isn't he? I think he's in jail now, so it's all right.
I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, but even just a fraction or of the money that I see people come with, like sometimes, somehow people are just like doing these festivals or even the festival shows or anything that asks the artist to pay. So like the pay to play type thing, I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
And I see why it's a viable stream of income, but I cannot in good faith do that because it's not fair to the artist. But in turn, sometimes I think the artists are taking advantage of me. So then it's like, no, I don't ask you to pay to play, but like you're getting paid to kind of not pull your weight. So now I'm getting taken, like getting to doing all this stuff. But yeah, I really wish that some of the access that I could have like will come sooner. But at the end of the day, like you said, I know that what I'm doing is good. And so it's a part of like, doing the work and kind of waiting until it's my time and working hard until all of the big opportunities strike. So it's difficult, but I'm still out here working. It just gets a little discouraging at times.
I think it goes back to what we said. Sometimes it is all about like the flashiness and the looks and the, it looks good. It looks good on paper. It looks good. They have models and, it's not real. And when it's real, it's scary. People are like, well, I don't know. It's too real for me. Like, I don't know if
Right.
I don't know if I want to put any money towards it. Cause like, what if it like really sucks? Like, or it won't look good on my Instagram or it won't look sexy on my Twitter or my blog or my whatever, whatever the flavor of the month is, but it's just, yeah, I don't even know. I'm so out of it, but about that stuff, I don't know. It's crazy. Or like you didn't have, you're not paying social media influencers to come to your.
I mean, and literally, so I would, fun tip, like when you would ask people, I say, hey, like, can you just post about this on your Instagram? Like, and actually I would do it so for like the media people or people that had like, technical press.
Yeah.
I'd be like, hey, in exchange for a free ticket, just come and like promote it on your Instagram. Boom, you get them for free.
Yeah.
Some people were like, well, to post on our Instagram or our Twitter or our Facebook, it costs $50. Why in the entire fuck? Why would I pay you to promote? Like, why would I do that? That doesn't make any sense. And and people are doing that. Like, people are really out here like, oh, I have XYZ many followers, so you can pay me to promote to my followers. But I always ask, as a business person, what is my ROI for that? Like, if I pay you, can you assure me 50 ticket sales? Like, how does this work? Those numbers are arbitrary and actually mean nothing when you don't have the engagement. And I don't care. Like, I don't care to do business that way either. I don't care to. It was just weird, but yeah, I like that would happen. Like, I would say, hey, can you post this? Or, like, do you mind posting this? Of course, like, you'll get a discount, you'll get them for free or whatever. They're like, like, you can pay me to post it to my phone. I'm like, okay, no, not.
You'll put your money where your mouth is. Like, how do I, if you got me 20 sales, then
cool. Yes, perfect. Then all right, maybe that investment would be worth it for me. But no, and I'm also not in the business of like negotiating with what I call Instagram terrorists. Like, I mean, if you're not like, if you don't want to help me out, and not necessarily for free, but like if it's not a give and take type deal, if I'm doing a lot of the grunt work to get you just to post, I'm over it. Like, that's completely fine.
So I have like kind of like a side question. Would you ever think about like doing like, because you said you're focusing a lot like Southeast US, like having like little mini, I don't know what the word you would use, but kind of like mini factions of that, like throughout the country? Is that like something you're looking at, or internationally even? Is that something you're
It would be
thinking?
great. I have some contributors that write for me, but for the most part, this is like a few woman and man show. So if there are people that are trustworthy to do it in those places, I'm all for it. I would love to have like, looking at indie talent in London or something like that. Also, I mean, and maybe it's just on the outside looking in. I feel like to me, overseas does a better job of cultivating their indie talent, but that might not necessarily be true. It just feels that way because we're over here. Because I'm sure if we asked somebody over there, they'd probably say the same thing. But I would totally love to be like, hey, let me come out and hear some independent talent and, wherever. Like, I would love to. That would be something that I think would be super, super dope, actually. I just would need the team around it because I still am very leery about who I trust my brand to because it is my baby. So I don't have any kids and I'm not married. So when I tell people, like a lot of my friends, because I'm 26, so I'm at the age where everybody's getting married and having children and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm not sending you a like wedding invitation, but I'm sending you a link to this ticket because I worked so hard for this. This is my baby. This is my wedding. Like, so no, it's not a formal invitation or it's not something that you understand, but this is important enough to me to be like, please support this. Like, weddings and baby showers and stuff are recognizable, but I want this to be recognizable too. I have this every year. This stuff that I do, or when I sell merch on my website, all of this stuff is my baby. So, like, I guess like respond accordingly because I guess you wouldn't like throw a wedding invitation in the mail unless like you don't like that person. So like for me, when I'm reaching out to my friends, I'm like, yeah, like this right now is so important to me that I would like really appreciate your support on it. So if I could have the backing to have them in different places, I would totally do it in a heartbeat. Like I would totally do West Coast or, somewhere else or internationally. I would do it so quickly.
Wow. That's something to consider. I mean, like you said, it is your project is right now still a toddler. So
right.
Once it starts growing, you never know. It could happen in the future, hopefully the near future, but
fingers
crossed. So what else? You told me a little bit about your next couple weeks coming up. Anything else you foresee for 2019?
So 2019, I've been saying that I'm going to introduce video content. Like I'm gonna do it next year. Between the end of 2018 and 2019, I'm going to introduce video content. However, I'm a really big proponent of words. So I'm not going to become like a YouTube channel. I do want to introduce video content, but I'm really a big proponent of people reading and even going back to me writing my book. The reason that I wanted to write it's gonna get finished eventually, but it's a fiction fantasy series with Black protagonist, and I started writing this in high school, like in English class. I'd be like kind of listening to the teacher but still writing it. Like the very first idea came from that, and I wanted it to be like, we read all this old stuff in school. Like, I mean, To Kill a Mockingbird is great, and Scarlet Letter, all the stuff, Catcher in the Rye. But I wanted to write something that people my age, so I guess even high school then and now, like young adults could relate to and be interesting, but make reading interesting. A lot of times reading can be it seems boring even though it's really not, but just trying to make people interested in reading. So I said all that to say that I do want to introduce video content, but I still don't want you to, or you as in like people to stop reading. Like words are important. So I want to do the video content, I guess, to get people aware that it is possible and can be done. And then I still want you to come back and learn how to read words and articulate your thoughts through words. That's what I like to do. But video content is coming, and then more playlisting. I'm going to get back on keeping my playlist consistent. More playlisting and more video content in the rest of 2018 and 2019.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see what else you do. You got to keep in touch with keeping up all this stuff. Speaking of a little quick about the video content, when I was watching your story on your gram, you're like behind the scenes, and then you're like, this is real life. So is it going to be more like that type of video content, or more like like not professional, but more like strictly focused on the artists? And
I think
stuff
it'll
they're posting?
probably be a little bit of both. I do like the behind
Alright.
the scenes kind of like, background stuff. But I also like the, the performative piece, like the beautiful piece too. So I do want to introduce both types. Haven't figured out how I'm gonna do that yet, but
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I can't wait to see what you got coming up.
I'm glad that I got to sit down and talk to you.